It is not Autism Awareness Month, and that's part of the point tonight. For families raising children with autism, every day brings fresh awareness of the challenges and achievements associated with it. And so we are pleased to welcome back to our studio something that's become a bit of a tradition here on TVO, the Great Lakes. Mike Lake is the Conservative MP for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin, and his son Jaden Lake is alongside as well. Nice to have you guys back here.
It's good to be here.
Jaden, can we start with our traditional high five? There we go. Thank you very much. I want to play some tape off the top. You do this every year, Mike, and it tends to bring the issue home. Here's MP Mike Lake in the House of Commons. Roll it.
April 2nd was World Autism Awareness Day, and 19 years since my son Jaden was diagnosed at 2. Jaden isn't special because he has autism, nor is he special despite having autism. He's just really and truly special. When you're with Jaden, he doesn't require you to be anyone you're not. He simply loves the fact that you're with him. He doesn't care at all what party you're with, whether you're the Prime Minister or a backbencher, a staff member, or even a member of the Parliamentary Press Gallery. He'll like you, and he'll trust you. And if you do him wrong, he'll probably like and trust you all over again before you've completed your next breath. Too often our society views such naivety as weakness. Having had the privilege of learning from Jaden for 21 years, I'd argue that the opposite is true. If we can adapt our thinking to include and embrace more of the raw honesty and vulnerability we see in people like Jaden, we will all be better off for it.
That was so sweet. Who'd you blow the kiss to in the end there?
Oh, that's him. He's up in the crowd.
He's in the gallery.
Up in the gallery. They're watching that. Yeah.
You do this every year.
Yeah.
How come?
Because, well, a couple of reasons. I think you have a platform as a member of Parliament to say anything that you want, and I think it's important for us to share our life experience, and it's an opportunity to celebrate Jaden. Every time, and also his sister. So from time to time, the statement will be about her, because siblings of people with autism are pretty special in and of their own right, and live a really special experience. And so it's that opportunity to celebrate him, but really it's celebrating all people with autism across the country, and taking that moment to try and build awareness a little bit.
He's completely bored with what you're saying.
Yeah, he is.
He is.
He's a little tired this morning. And Jaden, of course, doesn't have a filter, so if he's tired, he's going to yawn, and if he's happy, he'll laugh. And
now, your daughter Janae has been here in the past.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she's how old now?
She's in grade 12. That's why she's not here right now. She's very serious about her school, and wants to make sure she's on top of everything. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and he's how old now?
He is 21.
He's 21 years old now.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's amazing. He was 9 years old when I first got elected. Yeah.
Mike, I think let's just go back. You've had many visits to our studio here, but I don't want to assume that everybody's seen your previous visits here. So let's just go back, if we can, and tell a bit of the story. He was how old when you realized that he had autism?
He was 2, right, Jaden? Were you 2 years old? And he would sort of be in his own world. So he would be with pots and pans sitting on the floor, but lots of kids like to play with pots and pans, but they're typically banging them and then get up and run around and do some other things. And Jaden would get to the pots and pans, and he could spend hours sitting on the floor, putting them inside each other, then piling them up, and then lining them up, and then starting again, piling them up, or whatever the case is. Very, very hard to get in his world at that time. And I remember there were times when he would interact with me, particularly one repeat occurrence, I guess, in a sense, that he would come and get me wherever I was, and grab my hand and drag me over to the pantry, and push my arm up, kind of almost like his own personal robot, up to the handle, and pull it, open the door, push my arm into the shelf he wanted where the crackers were, make me pull the crackers out, pull my arm back down, grab them, and then do everything in reverse. Push my arm back up, push the crackers back in, make me close the door, and then push me away. And he'd take his handful of crackers and go and play with his pots and pans again. And so, in a sense, at that time, very little connection, very little eye contact, very little interest in interacting with other human beings at that point.
And always nonverbal, right?
And always nonverbal. It's kind of funny, actually, because his mom would say that he said ma 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 or da 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 a little bit more before he was 2 or right around the time he was 2, and then really kind of lost that even at that point. Now it's funny, he's nonverbal, but he writes and he can type things into a computer, but he still communicates. He'll still he'll kind of let out a little bit of a shriek if something gets his attention, or a ba 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 ba. So oftentimes we'll be driving in the car right now with Janae, and Janae kicks him into the back seat, and Jaden sits on the passenger side in the back seat, while Janae sits in the front seat, and we'll be driving down the highway and we'll hear a ba 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 and tap 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 on the window, and we'll both kind of look back and notice that Jaden's seen a cow. Oh. And you kind of have to look and see what it is that he's seen, and it might be a cow or a train or a truck or an airplane in the sky, and he likes to point those things out and bring them to our attention.
He does.
Yeah.
He clearly gets what you're saying, right? He understands what you're saying.
He thinks in nouns largely. So what I think he understands is the things that make him happy. It's been a busy trip, so he's a little bit tired. But when he hears us talk, if we were to talk about dogs or Skittles or ice cream, those are things that make him happy. And or Smarties or math or word searches. His schedule, he likes to hear about his schedule a little bit, right? So you like to know that you're flying home to Edmonton today, right? Yeah. Does that sound good? And Daddy's flying to Washington today, right?
Speaking of Edmonton, I can't help but notice the T-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is doubly special, not just because obviously you represent Edmonton, but you used to work for the Oilers.
I did. I worked for the Oilers for 10 years.
You guys watch the games together?
We do. It's interesting watching hockey with Jaden, though, because Jaden is more interested, probably not in so much the goal of the game. When a team scores a goal, Jaden might not notice right away and get excited. But he definitely likes watching the action on the ice. When we're watching on TV, he likes to look at the numbers on the screen. He likes to answer questions. So if I ask him questions about numbers, players and what numbers they are, or point out where's number 8 or where's number 97, he likes to look at those things. And he's because of the help that he's gotten through his life, he's incredibly more connected. I guess young adult than he was as a 2-year-old, and so he celebrates when people celebrate. I think he gets excited when everybody else gets excited, and then just sort of enjoys watching that.
So you've taken him to a game.
He's been to a few games. He was obviously at more games when I worked there.
Right. I just wondered how he would react to. When the Oilers score, obviously there's this sudden blast of huge noise, and I wonder how he reacts.
Some people with autism would have real trouble with that.
Right.
Jaden loves it. Jaden soaks it in. So you think about people with autism and sort of sensory, how they deal with things that are sensory. Their senses are sort of on high alert for everything, but the response might be a little bit different. Jaden actually likes crowds. He really likes touch and feel and those kind of things. And some people with autism, their senses go crazy and they don't like any of those types of things. I think the commonality in both cases is that their senses are heightened by touch or by sound or by what they're seeing. In Jaden's case, it might result in him being able to, when he's doing a word search, see things that other people wouldn't see because his visual senses are just so sharp. And we saw that last time when I was on the show, and we did the alphabet in reverse order, and it was quite amazing.
You wrote Z, Y, you handed him the pen, and he wrote the whole alphabet backwards.
And it was something that he had done at first before he was 2.
Incredible.
Not in writing, but with foam letters, yeah.
I do notice, though, you two are always in there. Yeah, he's going to give you a kiss.
Come here. Yeah.
You two are always extremely affectionate, and I think even more so on this visit than in past visits.
Yeah.
Why more so today? Any thought on that?
Yeah, he's a little bit more anxious today, and this happens. We're doing this in the morning, and so. When we do something in the morning, sometimes mornings are a little bit rougher for him. He might be thinking about the day ahead. He's had a decent sleep. It's kind of funny that he's as tired as he is, but it has been a busy schedule. But mornings can be tough, and he has some anxiety sometimes in the mornings. And so you kind of learn over time that when he's anxious, you have to read sort of his eyes and read his face and the color of his skin and those kind of things. And the way to kind of get through that with him as his dad when I'm hanging out with him is just to hold him and sometimes rub his back or hold his hand, or sometimes when he's really anxious. I remember when we spoke at We Day, spoke to 15,000 students in Saskatoon last year, and great day, and he was really excited the whole day. When we got to the airport, our flight was canceled and we had to wait at the airport a little bit longer, and for whatever reason, at some point, maybe it was the change in schedule for him or something, but at some point he got really rigid and shaky and was very, very anxious. And at that point, I just had to find a quiet place in the Saskatoon airport, which isn't that hard, but we found, went to a far corner in the Saskatoon airport, and he just, as a 20-year-old boy, sat on my lap, and I held him for half an hour and just held him as tight as I could possibly hold him, and just rubbed his ear like I sometimes do, because he likes that and finds it calming, or scratching his hair, which he finds calming.
Interesting. And that worked.
And it calmed him down, but it takes a little bit of time, and it's just very calming. Yeah.
Is he still in school?
He is in a program right now, sort of a transition program. Do you like we still call it school. Do you like it, the school you go to? Yeah. And it teaches him life skills and things like cooking. And they do other things. They, I think, go swimming from time to time, but mostly kind of working on the transition, because we want to get him working. He really likes to work.
At what?
Well, he worked in the library when he was younger, so in school. And I think a library type situation would be really good for him. But anywhere that involves sorting of things, sort of basic putting things away where they belong. So working in a warehouse, for example, or in a store putting things on shelves, or those kind of things. Anything where he kind of follows a routine that's, he likes to do things over and over and over again. So, he loves to sort laundry, for example, and then put the laundry away. Yeah. He, at one point, we had him for a day working in the Oil Kings, the junior hockey team in Edmonton, had him work in their dressing room, and really kind of had fun helping out with the laundry, folding towels and those kind of things. And that kind of a team atmosphere. I think with Jaden, he thrives around other people, but the interesting thing is they thrive around him too.
Mike, autism, obviously, and the responsibility of it is a provincial responsibility. It comes under healthcare, but you are involved in trying to create something more national first and even global. Tell us about this Canadian Autism Partnership that you're involved in.
Yeah, so this goes back a couple of years. So you're right about the fact that most of the costs are at the provincial level. When you look at early intervention, when you look at education, when you look at housing, even there's a lot of things that are real challenges for people across their lifespan with autism, and there's a lot of cost attached to them, and there are a lot of gaps from province to province, differences in the way things are done. And then you kind of take a look at the federal level and say, well, what can the federal government do? And I think that we kind of zeroed in on it in 2015, working with the stakeholders from across the country back when we were in government. And we funded a working group to establish a Canadian Autism Partnership. And what this looks like is 12 of the top experts in the country coming together to create a business plan for the establishment of this partnership. Think about all of these problems that I mentioned, early intervention or education or housing or whatever it might be, vocation. Think of the top experts in the country coming together to provide the very best evidence-based advice to governments in their jurisdiction about what needs to be done. So they might work with the government of Ontario on early intervention. Of course, the government just in the last year has rolled out a plan for early intervention in autism.
After a hell of a firestorm.
There have been a lot of challenges
parents.
along the way. What this expert group would do would gather the best evidence from around the world, really, specifically Canada, and say, here's what works, here's what doesn't, here are the things you want to think about as you establish this plan, right? But
we would take it global?
We would tackle the same thing at a housing level with an expert housing working group. We would tackle transitions or education or whatever the case is. Again, recognizing provincial jurisdiction in the delivery of these things, but providing the absolute best advice possible. At a global level, it's absolutely translatable at a global level, because there are very, very similar challenges. I was in Tanzania last year and talking to a doctor in a region of over 1 million people. And I was there in my role as a critic for global maternal, newborn, and child health, so talking about a lot of that other things about saving the lives of kids under 5 and the other things that organizations like World Vision and Save the Children and Plan are so focused on. And I just, off the, just not on a whim, but just as an aside, asked, what about autism? How do you guys deal with autism here? How prevalent? And this senior doctor, the head doctor in a region of over 1 million people, said, "What is autism?" And kind of realized that I'd had further conversations that autism is just as prevalent in these countries, but the awareness of it isn't there. And in places where there is maybe an awareness, there's maybe a stigma attached to it, maybe just a different understanding of why it comes about. If you're in a rural area, it might be seen as a curse or something to do with bad parenting or whatever the case is. And we take a look and say, if you can bring the global experts together, and a lot of these global experts happen to be in Canada and North America, if we can bring global experts together and have a conversation about that, we can change the lives for people around the world, working with the government of Tanzania or Pakistan or India or whatever country we're working with, where they're at, meeting them where they're at to give their decision makers the best possible information from around the world.
Now, normally we have you visit us in April, which is Autism Awareness Month. This year, I guess just to sort of change it up a bit, you're here in May, and I guess that's part of the point, right?
Yeah.
You can't just focus on this 1 month a year, particularly if you're the parent of an autistic child, right?
Well, and right now, on the Canadian Autism Partnership particularly, the challenge is, and we're right in the middle of it right now, the challenge is that this working group did its work, submitted its report. They were funded for $2 million to do their work and submit this report in budget 2015, and it was turned down in budget 2017. So they had a budget ask turned down by the government of the day in Canada, Liberal government of the day in Canada, and so we're trying to raise awareness of this and work to see this funded, because this group has been working for 2 years on this. They really are renowned experts from across the country, and they've got a budget ask for $19 million, so under $4 million a year, $19 million over 5 years to establish this partnership.
Any idea why it didn't get through?
You know what? It's hard to figure out exactly why something does or doesn't get through. This one was weird because my understanding is the Liberal members of Parliament, over half of them signed on a letter of support to it. I believe the health minister herself supported it. So in terms of a budget process, it's there's a lot of asks in budget processes, and I believe that at the end of the day, policymakers will make the right decisions if they know about the challenges and know what's going on. So right now we're really focused on helping this government to understand how important this partnership is for Canadian families, what it will do for Canadian families. If you're a family in Manitoba or Quebec right now, you might face a nearly 2-year wait for diagnosis alone, and then another 2-year wait for treatment. Your kid's 2, and they have autism, but they don't get diagnosed till 4, and they don't get into treatment till nearly 6. And you're missing that 2 to 6 window that absolutely changes their life. Now, the funding for that comes from the province, but a Canadian Autism Partnership would work with provinces like that to say, here's what you need to do. Here's what the gaps are. Here's what the evidence shows works. And as a policymaker, as a decision maker, half the battle is good information. Knowing that when you take a step to make a significant investment, that investment is going to be based on evidence and is going to actually impact people's lives. And so right now, I would say that the push that we're on, and it's a significant push. We've got Global Citizen, for example, an organization called Global Citizen that Canada that's engaged and made this their sort of domestic issue. This is an organization that does good work to raise awareness of issues like poverty and inequality and women's and girls' rights at a global level. At the domestic level here in Canada, they've chosen the Canadian Autism Partnership to be something that they're pushing, and getting their global citizens to tweet at the finance minister and the prime minister to let them know that they support this. And one of the things that I think is critical in these pushes is to make sure that they're positive. I really, really believe that if people understand what the challenges are, if people understand what the opportunity is, they'll make the right decision. And our goal this month is to see this government change their decision on the Canadian Autism Partnership.
Gotcha. Mike, we always appreciate your visits to us here at TVO. It's become a bit of an annual tradition. I don't mind saying I love looking at the affection between the two of you. It's a beautiful father-son moment, and we're grateful that you let us eavesdrop in on it every year.
Well, we love coming, and talked to Jaden about it yesterday, and he was very excited to come. And it may not seem like it in the moment sometimes, because sometimes anxiety can override a little bit, and the busyness of the day. But he does love coming here. And
Jaden, thank you for coming.
I bet he'll give you another high five. Yeah.
There you go. We always begin and end that way. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.